Hello and welcome back to A Chapter a Day with Miss Petals. I am your hostess, Miss Petals, and today's program has been brought to you today by the Seeds of Harvest Library, located at 4121 Cleveland Street, Gary, Indiana, inside Market City. They're open from Friday and Sunday 10:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., Saturday 10:30 a.m. through 4:30 p.m. And they do accept donations. Donations are hardcover books, please, and you can follow them through social media. If you would like to donate, please email them at seedsofharvestlibrary@gmail.com. That's seedsofharvestlibrary@gmail.com. Well, welcome back, everyone, from our break. I hope you enjoyed the reading of Fahrenheit 451. But today we are going to get started on a new novel by George Orwell, Animal Farm. So, this guy is all over the place right now. I'm pretty sure you all heard expressions of, oh, this is so Orwell, or this is so Orwellian, or this is George Orwell's time, this is 1984, this is the. And if you don't know what they're talking about, well, we're going to talk about who George Orwell is and why people would say that. And we're going to read one of his novels, which is Animal Farm, as I said earlier. Now, this is broken up into chapters, so we will do a chapter a day instead of an hour a day. So, like always, before we start a new novel, I want you to be introduced to the author himself. So this, as you see on the screen eventually, you will, we have a lag time. Live has a lag time with real time and recorded time. But the picture you see is George Orwell, but his real name was Eric Blair. And he was born in 1903 in Mathari, Bengal. I know I messed that up. In the then British colony of India, where his father Richard worked for the opium department of the civil service. His mother Ida brought him to England at the age of 1. He did not see his father again until 1907, when Richard visited England for 3 months before leaving again until 1912. Eric had an older sister named Marjorie and a younger sister named Avril. With his characteristic humor, he would later describe his family's background as lower upper middle class. During most of his career, Orwell was best known for his journalism, both in the British press and in books of reportage, such as Homage to Catalonia, describing his experiences during the Spanish Civil War. Down and Out in Paris and London, describing a period of poverty in these cities. And The Road to Wigan Pier, which described the living conditions of poor miners in northern England. According to Newsweek, Orwell was the finest journalist of his day and the foremost architect of the English essay since Hazlitt. Contemporary readers are most often introduced to Orwell as a novelist, particularly through his enormously successful titles Animal Farm and 1984. The former is considered an allegory of the corruption of the socialist ideals of the Russian Revolution by Stalinism, and the latter, which is 1948, is Orwell's prophetic vision of the results of totalitarianism. Orwell denied that Animal Farm was a reference to Stalinism. Orwell had returned from Catalina, a staunch anti-Stalinist and anti-communist. But he remained to the end a man of the left, and in his own words, a democratic socialist. Orwell is also known for his insights about the political implications of the use of language in the essay Politics and the English Language. He decries the effects of cliche bureaucratic euphemism and academic jargon on literary styles, and ultimately on thought itself. Orwell's concern over the power of language to shape reality is also reflected in his invention of newspeak, the official language of the imaginary country of Oceania, in his novel 1984. Newspeak is a variant of English in which vocabulary is strictly limited by government fiat. The goal is to make it increasingly difficult to express ideas that contradict the official line, with the final aim of making it impossible even to conceive such ideas. A number of words and phrases that Orwell coined in 1984 have entered the standard vocabulary, such as memory hole, Big Brother, Room 101, doublethink, thought police, and newspeak. So whenever somebody is saying that's so Orwellian, that's so 1984, well, now you know you can think about that man. That, my friends, is George Orwell. And if you would like to read 1948, the Seeds of Harvest Library has it for you to check out. And you can read for yourself, or if you would like me to read, as I've said previously, if I get 4 or 5 people to comment and say, hey, Miss Petals, please read 1984, I will happily do so. We will make time, because it is a long novel. But today, we will begin Animal Farm, Chapter 1. I gotta get past this. Hold on. Alrighty. And if you guys want to know what version I'm reading, it's this one with the introduction from Christopher Hitchens for all you college kids who might have to read this book or read 1984. I strongly suggest you get this, because especially for you college kids who have to read it, you get Animal Farm and you get 1984 all rolled in one. So you don't have to buy 2 books. You can just go ahead and get both. And the introduction is by Christopher Hitchens. So I'm reading. So this is the one I will be reading out of. Chapter 1. Mr. Jones of the Manor Farm had locked the hen houses for the night, but was too drunk to remember to shut the pop holes. With the ring of light from his lantern dancing from side to side, he lurched across the yard, kicked off his boots at the back door, drew himself a last glass of beer from the barrel in the scullery, and made his way up to bed, where Miss Jones was already snoring. As soon as the light in the bedroom went out, there was a stirring and a fluttering all through the farm buildings. Word had gone round during the day that old Major, the prize middle white boar, had had a strange dream on the previous night, and wished to communicate it to the other animals. It had been agreed that they should all meet in the big barn as soon as Mr. Jones was safely out of the way. Old Major, so he was always called, though the name under which he had been exhibited was Willingdon Beauty, was so highly regarded on the farm that everyone was quite ready to lose an hour's sleep in order to hear what he had to say. At one end of the big barn, on a sort of raised platform, Major was already ensconced on his bed of straw under a lantern, which hung under a beam. He was 12 years old, and had lately grown rather stout, but he was still a majestic-looking pig, with a wise and benevolent appearance in spite of the fact that his tushes had never been cut. Before long, the other animals began to arrive and make themselves comfortable after their different fashions. First came the three dogs, Bluebell, Jessie, and Pincher, and then the pigs, who settled down in the straw immediately in front of the platform. The hens perched themselves on the window sill, the pigeons fluttered up to the rafters, the sheep and cows lay down behind the pigs and began to chew the cud. The two cart horses, Boxer and Clover, came in together, walking very slowly and setting down their vast hairy hoofs with great care, lest there should be some small animal concealed in the straw. Clover was a stout, motherly mare, approaching middle life, who had never quite got her figure back after her fourth foal. Boxer was an enormous beast, nearly 18 hands high, and as strong as any two ordinary horses put together. A white stripe down his nose gave him a somewhat stupid appearance, and in fact he was not of first-rate intelligence, but he was universally respected for his steadiness of character and tremendous power of work. After the horses came Muriel, the white goat, and Benjamin, the donkey. Benjamin was the oldest animal on the farm and the worst tempered. He seldom talked, and when he did, it was usually to make some cynical remark. For instance, he would say that God had given him a tail to keep the flies off, but that he would sooner have had no tail and no flies. Along among the animals on the farm, he never laughed. If asked why, he would say that he saw nothing to laugh at. Nevertheless, without openly admitting it, he was devoted to Boxer. The two of them usually spent their Sundays together in the small paddock beyond the orchard, grazing side by side and never speaking. The two horses had just lain down with a brood of ducklings which had lost their mother, filed into the barn, cheeping feebly and wandering from side to side to find some place where they would not be trodden on. Clover made a sort of wall round them with her great foreleg, and the ducklings nestled down inside it and promptly fell asleep. At the last moment, Molly, the foolish, pretty white mare who drew Mr. Jones's trap, came menacing daintily in, chewing at a lump of sugar. She took a place near the front and began flirting her white mane, hoping to draw attention to the red ribbons it was plaited with. Last of all came the cat, who looked round as usual for the warmest place, and finally squeezed herself in between Boxer and Clover. There she purred contentedly throughout Major's speech, without listening to a word of what he was saying. All the animals were now present except Moses, the tame raven, who slept on a perch behind the back door. When Major saw that they had all made themselves comfortable and were waiting attentively, he cleared his throat and began. "Comrades, you have heard already about the strange dream that I had last night, but I will come to the dream later. I have something else to say first. I do not think, comrades, that I shall be with you for many months longer, and before I die, I feel it my duty to pass on to you such wisdom as I have acquired. I have had a long life. I have had much time for thought as I lay alone in my stall, and I think I may say that I understand the nature of life on this earth as well as any animal now living. It is about this that I wish to speak to you. Now, comrades, what is the nature of this life of ours? Let us face it. Our lives are miserable, laborious, and short. We are born, we are given just so much food as will keep the breath in our bodies, and those of us who are capable of it are forced to work to the last atom of our strength. And the very instant that our usefulness has come to an end, we are slaughtered with hideous cruelty. No animal in England knows the meaning of happiness or leisure. After he is a year old, no animal in England is free. The life of an animal is misery and slavery. That is the plain truth. But is this simply part of the order of nature? Is it because this land of ours is so poor that it cannot afford a decent life to those who dwell upon it? No, comrades, 1,000 times no. The soil of England is fertile. Its climate is good. It is capable of affording food in abundance to an enormous greater number of animals than now inhabit it. This single farm of ours would support 12 horses, 20 cows, hundreds of sheep, and all of them living in a comfort and a dignity that are now almost beyond our imagining. Why then do we continue to this miserable condition? Because nearly the whole of the produce of our labor is stolen from us by human beings. Their comrades is the answer to all our problems. It is summed up in a single word: man. Man is the only real enemy we have. Remove man from the scene, and the root cause of hunger and overwork is abolished forever. Man is the only creature that consumes without producing. He does not give milk. He does not lay eggs. He is too weak to pull the plow. He cannot run fast enough to catch rabbits. Yet he is lord of all the animals. He sets them to work. He gives back to them the bare minimum that will prevent them from starving, and the rest he keeps for himself. Our labor tills the soil. Our dung fertilizes it. And yet there is not one of us that owns more than his bare skin. You cows that I see before me, how many thousands of gallons of milk have you given during this last year? And what has happened to that milk which should have been breeding up sturdy calves? Every drop of it has gone down the throats of our enemies. And you hens, how many eggs have you laid in this last year? And how many of those eggs ever hatched into chickens? The rest have all gone to market to bring in money for Jones and his men. And you, Clover, where are those 4 fowls you bore? Who should have been the support and pleasure of your old age? Each was sold at a year old. You will never see one of them again. In return for your 4 confinements and all your labor in the fields, what have you ever had except your bare rations and a stall? And even the miserable lives we lead are not allowed to reach their natural span. For myself, I do not grumble, for I am one of the lucky ones. I am 12 years old and have had over 400 children. Such is the natural life of a pig. But no animal escapes the cruel knife in the end. You young porkers, who are sitting in front of me, every one of you will scream your lives out at the block within a year. To that horror we all must come. Cows, pigs, hens, sheep, everyone, even the horses and the dogs have no better fate. You, boxer, the very day that those great muscles of yours lose their power, Jones will sell you to the knacker, who will cut your throat and boil you down for the foxhounds. As for the dogs, when they grow old and toothless, Jones ties a brick around their necks and drowns them in the nearest pond. Is it not crystal clear, then, comrades, that all the evils of this life of ours spring from the tyranny of human beings? Only get rid of man, and the produce of our labor would be our own. Almost overnight, we could become rich and free. What then must we do? Why work night and day, body and soul, for the overthrow of the human race? That is my message to you, comrades. Rebellion! I do not know when that rebellion will come. It might be in a week or in 100 years. But I know as surely as I see this straw beneath my feet that sooner or later justice will be done. Fix your eyes on that, comrades, throughout the short remainder of your lives. And above all, pass on this message of mine to those who come after you, so that future generations shall carry on the struggle until it is victorious. And remember, comrades, your resolution must never falter. No argument must lead you astray. Never listen when they tell you that man and the animals have a common interest, that the prosperity of the one is the prosperity of the others. It is all lies. Man serves the interests of no creature except himself. And among us, animals, let there be perfect unity, perfect comradeship. In the struggle, all men are enemies. All animals are comrades. At this moment, there was a tremendous uproar. While Major was speaking, 4 large rats had crept out of their holes and were sitting on their hindquarters, listening to him. The dogs had suddenly caught sight of them, and it was only by a swift dash for their holes that the rats saved their lives. Major raised his trotter for silence. Comrades, he said, here is a point that must be settled. The wild creatures such as rats and rabbits, are they our friends or our enemies? Let us put it to the vote. I propose this question to the meeting. Are rats comrades? The vote was taken at once, and it was agreed by an overwhelming majority that rats were comrades. There were only 4 dissensions, the 3 dogs and the cats. The 3 dogs and the cat, who was afterwards discovered to have voted on both sides. Major continued, I have little more to say. I merely repeat, remember always your duty of enmity towards man and all his ways. Whatever goes upon 2 legs is an enemy. Whatever goes upon 4 legs or has wings, it is a friend. And remember also that in fighting against man, we must not come to resemble him. even when you have conquered him. Do not adopt his vices. No animal must ever live in a house, or sleep in a bed, or wear clothes, or drink alcohol, or smoke tobacco, or touch money, or engage in trade. All the habits of man are evil. And above all, no animal must ever tyrannize over his own kind. Weak or strong, clever or simple, we are all brothers. No animal must ever kill any other animal. All animals are equal. And now, comrades, I will tell you about my dream of last night. I cannot describe that dream to you. It was a dream of the earth as it will be when man has vanished. But it reminded me of something that I had long forgotten. Many years ago, when I was a little pig, my mother and the other sows used to sing an old song of which they knew only the tune, and the first 3 words. I had known that tune in my infancy, but it had long since passed out of my mind. Last night, however, it came back to me in my dream, and what is more, the words of the song also came back. Words, I am certain, which were sung by the animals of long ago, and have been lost to memory for generations. I will sing you that song now, comrades. I am old and my voice is hoarse, but when I have taught you the tune, you can sing it better for yourselves. It is called Beast of England. Old Major cleared his throat and began to sing. As he had said, his voice was hoarse, but he sang well enough, and it was a stirring tune, something between Clementine and La Cucaracha. The words ran, Beast of England, beast of Ireland, beast of every land and clime, hearken to my joyful tidings of the golden future time. Soon or late the day is coming. Tyrant man shall be overthrown, and the fruitful fields of England shall be trod by beasts alone. Ring shall vanish for our noses, and the harness from our back. Bit and spur shall rust forever. Cruel whips no more shall crack. Riches more than mine can picture. Wheat and barley, oats and hay, clover, beans, and mangle-wurzels. I know y'all laughing at me, but hey, shall be ours upon that day. Bright will shine the fields of England, pure shall its waters be. Sweeter yet shall blow its breezes on the day that sets us free. For that day we all must labor, though we die before it break. Cows and horses, geese and turkeys, all must toil for freedom's sake. Beast of England, beast of Ireland, beasts of every land and clime, hearken well and spread my tidings of the golden future time. They said La Cucaracha, so okay. The singing of this song threw the animals into the wildest excitement. Almost before Major had reached the end, they had begun singing it for themselves. Even the stupidest of them had already picked up the tune and a few of the words, and as for the clever ones, such as the pigs and dogs, they had the entire song by heart within a few minutes. And then after a few preliminary tries, the whole farm burst into the Beast of England. In tremendous unison, the cows lowed it, the dogs whined it, the sheep bleated it, the horses whined it, the horses whinnied it, the ducks quacked it. They were so delighted with the song that they sang it right through 5 times in succession, and might have continued singing it all night if they had not been interrupted. Unfortunately, the uproar awoke Mr. Jones, who sprang out of bed, feeling sure that there was a fox in the yard. He seized the gun, which always stood in a corner of his bedroom, and let fly a charge of number 6 shot into the darkness. The pellets buried themselves in the wall of the barn, and the meeting broke up hurriedly. Everyone fled to his own sleeping place. The birds jumped on to their perches, the animals settled down in the straw, and the whole farm was asleep in a moment. End of chapter 1. But I'm going to read the song. I'm just going to read it for those of you who are like, what? So I'm just going to read it plain, and then we'll reflect on chapter 1. It says, "Beast of England, beast of Ireland, beast of every land and clime, hearken to my joyful tidings of the golden future time. Soon or late the day is coming, tyrant man shall be o'erthrown, and the fruitful fields of England shall be trod by beast alone. Rings shall vanish from our noses, and the harness from our back. Bit and spur shall rust forever. Cruel whips no more shall crack. Riches more than mind can picture. Wheat and barley, oats and hay. Clover, beans, and mangled wurzels shall be ours upon that day. Bright will shine the fields of England, pure shall its waters be. Sweeter yet shall blow its breezes on the day that sets us free. For that day we all must labor. Though we die before it break, cows and horses, geese and turkeys, all must toil for freedom's sake. Beast of England, beast of Ireland, beast of every land and clime, hearken well and spread my tidings of the golden future time." So we are introduced to the animals and old Major, who is a big pig who's about to die. And he points all of the animals' suffering and misery to man, which is interesting because for those of you who read with me Fahrenheit 451, I don't know if you remember the ending of how Granger wanted to build, the first thing he wanted to rebuild after the war was a mirror factory, so man can always have a mirror and look at himself. And it brings me back to, I guess, the Michael Jackson song, like, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. But here, and so it's like an Animal Farm, man is also the problem. And this pig, Major, is telling all the farm animals that once man is wiped off the face of the earth, then everything will be better for animals and nobody will have to suffer anymore, or all the work that they do will be there, they'll be able to enjoy it instead of man. And let me read this part to you all, where he pretty much says that hold on a second, that man, that the animals shouldn't act like the humans, and animals shouldn't treat each other badly, that they're all brothers, comrades. And my camera went out, so I'm sorry, guys, but I think you're still able to hear me. Let me just go to the title screen. So here we are. I feel like this is like leading to all of what he said that the animal shouldn't do, I feel like they're gonna do it. If it feels like we're foreshadowing here. Let me see if I can find it. Mm-mm. Yeah. Oh, here we are. No animal must ever live in a house or sleep in a bed or wear clothes or drink alcohol or smoke tobacco or touch money or engage in trade. All the habits of man are evil, and above all, no animal must ever tyrannize over his own kind. Weak or strong, clever or simple, we are all brothers. No animal must ever kill any other animals. All animals are equal. Oh, camera's still broken. So, kind of goes back to if we look at our own humanity here, isn't that all of what we do today? Don't we? It seems like we tyrannize over each other and we treat each other not like equals. So, are the animals going to be any better? We'll find out. Once again, I do apologize for the camera going out. Um, Let me see. I want to switch it to the laptop. I know it's crappy, but the quality is crappy, but I want you guys, I at least want to say goodbye to you. There we are. Yep. Alrighty, so like I said, will the animals be any better than the human beings? Because after reading that, I feel like this is kind of irony and foreshadowing what will happen. So, sorry about the camera again, guys. I think I'm just gonna stick with the droid cam for next time or throughout our whole thing, because sometimes this camera does not work. So, until next time, this is Flower Girl J. Oh, that's my other. Oh, sorry guys, that's my other channel. Oh, check that out too, Flower Girl J. Story time with Flower Girl J. If you have any children, that is our story time for kids. So until next time, this is Miss Petals saying good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.